Good. Here I am choking right away. Good morning and happy Easter, everybody. I hope you're having a good Easter and lots of chocolate. Always a good source. Easter time or the Easter weekend, I always feel is a very turning point for most people. I live right now in the Northern Hemisphere, so we're going from winter into spring, which will lead to summer, my favorite time. So and whereas my family down in New Zealand are going the opposite way. But Easter also has a big impact on our philosophy, on how we handle certain things and what we're doing and how it works. When I was studying metaphysics and doing a look at how we treat prayer, how we treat elements of might say the elements of how you're working with the greater power, whatever name you call it. Of course, those of you who watch a lot know that I call it the love force because that's what I ran into many, many years ago, and that was the name that I gave it. As far as I'm concerned, whatever word you use for the higher power, whether it be God, Jesus, Allah, or any of the other names that are out there that we refer to that greater power, that it is a loving force, that there is no it doesn't hold and judgment. That's the word I'm looking for. There is no judgment within that force. It just loves. And in that love is forgiveness. And one of the elements that have worked with, now this happened many years ago, but it's something I always remember because I spent a lot of time once I recognized the importance of that. In the biblical story, when Jesus is on the cross, he says out loud, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And the more I studied, the more that statement didn't feel right to me. So what I did was I went inside and did some meditative work around it and asked some questions and did some past life regression work as well to find out why I didn't like this statement. And what I came up with is this. If you believe there is a loving force, that there is no judgment in that force, but it just loves, then that statement doesn't fit. If people had recorded it, and they did, and it just got changed because people wouldn't think that maybe that statement was said, the statement really would have been, "I forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." Once I got that phrase, I felt comfortable and quite willing to understand what went on then. And I applied that to my own life. I spent a lot of time, months actually. Now, just listen to how this statement works. I forgive myself for anything and everything that I have done throughout all time. 6 months, basically, around that 6 months I spent doing that, making sure I cleared out. Not because when you touch into the love source, when you touch into whatever name that you call it, you know that you're forgiven from that point, that you are accepted 100% for who you are and what you bring into that power. So when you move into forgiveness of yourself, now I did all that past life stuff as well. And then when my daughter died, I felt guilty about that. And I spent quite a few months having to forgive myself for what I didn't do or could have done and all that goes on. So you see, it's a very important part. And if you accept that the love force, God, Jesus, or any other deity that you look up to is loving and accepting of you as you are, you will realize it is not about having the deity to forgive somebody else. It's up to you to forgive yourself and any and all that are there. So Easter time is a time for remembrance of that. It's a time when you get to think about where you are. And yes, it's nice to have the Easter bunny arrive. And if you've got little ones, your Easter egg hunts and, lots of chocolate, which means for little kids, they usually get, really cry at the end of the day or something. But it can be looked at as because it's resurrection. I was having a talk with a friend and she was saying something, and she said, I don't understand. And I said, because by the Sunday, because he's was hung. Oh, well, no, there was nailed to the cross. Sorry, I got the wrong analogy there. On Friday, I said, well, Sunday's the day because this is where he resurrected. He came out of the cave and he was whole with holes in his hands. So a lot of people I find, because again, depending what course of study, what church maybe you belong to, or what their accepted norm is to what is accepted for this particular time of the year. From my perspective, this is a good time to take a look at where you hold judgment. Where are you judging? Are you judging friends? Are you judging leaders? Are you judging people? Because until we accept those aspects out there and correct in our own thinking and realize that's where they are, then we are not free really to be creative within our own mind and with our own elements of who and what we are and what we're doing and where we're thinking. Often at this time of the year, because we're shifting as up here from winter into spring a little bit, it's really funny on the daily thing when I look to see what the temperature is going to be. It's going to be 17, but feels like 11. Before we were dealing with it 7, but feels like 3. And so it's like slowly we're moving into that. There's not any snow around here or anything. Lots of clouds, a lot of some rain, but that element is there. It's a transition time period. So it is a good time period, excuse me, to take a look at what your goals are for the next while, what you're wanting to achieve. Is there anything in yourself you need to forgive? Do you need to forgive others for whatever they say, did, or whatever? The idea is to become clear, to feel complete, to feel a sense of purpose. At Christmas time, very often, because we're very close to the new year, we will make goals. It's a time good time now to reflect on how you're doing with your goals. Where are you hung up? Where are things not flowing? Where are things not working as you would like them to work? So you come into that understanding of all the elements of how and what it is. So I'm only going to talk a little time, winding this up actually, because I have a busy day today. And so I just want to say, really, just to reiterate, is to take a look at where you're holding judgment. And whether it's a person, a situation, or circumstances, know that if you're holding that judgment, that's a knot in the energy. That's a knot on you receiving what it is you want to receive or create and going, which that means, sorry, I'm bumbling my words here, or being able to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So it's really good to just sit back and take a look and say, where am I holding judgment? Is it on a person? Or is it on and it can be anything. It could be just situation in the government, or it could be a situation somewhere. Why are you holding the judgment? You could ask. I don't like the question of why, because there's usually no real answer. But what causes the judgment? What's behind the judgment? What does that judgment mean? And then forgive yourself for it. That's the biggest part. Move into, Now, how do you do a self-forgiveness? Is you align yourself with that loving light. You align yourself till you feel the force of love. And if you have a deity like Jesus or a mentor of some kind, usually on the other side, I can think of there's loads of names of people like that are gurus from the other side. If that's what you want, is you align yourself with the energy and recognize that that love is there so you can accept and then you can forgive. No person on this earth, I don't think, is really without something they can forgive themselves for. So it's like, but judgment is always at the base of it because a person isn't like this, or this person does that, or whatever. So in knowing that, I think that's the big key here. That's the big key. For me today, my son is visiting for the weekend, and actually you probably can just see him at the back frame here because I forgot to move the computer. And yeah, he waves. And so we are often having a mid-afternoon meal with a good friend of mine. So he's going to be returning home tomorrow, but it's been great having him. We always have a good time when he comes. And so anyway, make sure that Easter is a happy time for you. Just take time to take a look. Do you have any judgments? If so, forgive yourself for them. They're there because of circumstances. I also want to give a shout out to Karen. Happy Easter to you too, and enjoy. And Yvonne, thank you. Happy Easter. And happy Easter to everybody else. Blessings to you all. Lots of love. Bye now.